Welcome into another edition of Locked On Utah Hockey Club. Tom Callahan, Robyn Leonio here with you. In today's episode, I've got some burning questions about what's going on with this Utah team. It's August, it's hot. We're going to get into the hot topics that remain in August. Plus, did you know Utah Hockey Club is doing a hockey analytics challenge right now? We'll tell you about that as well. All that and more coming your way in just a moment.
You are Locked On Utah Hockey Club, your daily podcast on the Utah Hockey Club, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, we're locked on. I'm ready. Let's do it. The crosshairs are out. It's August. We're creeping closer. Robyn, I was looking at some big name hockey websites today, and do you know what I saw across the top of some of their screens? NHL regular season games already scheduled out in the month of October. It seems like just yesterday you told me it was 3 months from the season. Now it's like 2 months from the season. We are getting so close to this.
It's so crazy. I think Utah put on their X/Twitter profile? I think it was 72 days? 71 days at this point when everyone's listening.
It'll be here so fast.
So crazy. I can't believe we're just that close at this point.
And imagine the excitement if you're a fan of hockey in and around Salt Lake. Now, maybe you've been going to Grizz games or you went to any of the old, even the IHL teams back in the day. Maybe you go all the way back to the Bees. Whatever your brand of hockey has been that you've loved and you've known, can you imagine now you're finally getting an NHL team? I mean, the time can't go by fast enough. People have got to be so pumped right now.
Oh, just based off of the vibes that I have been getting from Utah hockey fans in the last, less than 4 months that we've been the Locked On Utah Hockey Club, previously Locked On NHL Utah podcast. It's been wild. And just seeing the growth of the show, for what first and foremost, Tom, is a telltale example of that, how excited so many people are for Utah hockey, Utah NHL hockey, to be this close to becoming an official on ice reality.
Robyn, I got to say that I am thrilled with the growth of the show, but I really feel like it's you growing the show. Every time I go on to the YouTube page, it's a Robyn love fest. Everybody is always now you're going to blush on me, but everybody's just always absolutely just giving you so much love. And I think that's great. And I appreciate that people don't pick the low hanging fruit, which is me, and actually go for the stuff that's ripe and good and full of all the fun things. So I appreciate that people are recognizing the work you're putting into it as well. So I just wanted to put that out there on an episode.
Well, it's certainly that's glad to hear. Someone that put in at this point almost 4 years covering this franchise on this podcast on the network. But not to mention, 8 years covering the previous known as the Coyotes. I've been around for such a long time. It's been.
Oh yeah, you're ancient. Yeah.
Good. I mean, at least what it feels like since my actual career started.
In hockey years, you're like 52. Hockey ages you faster.
I mean, yeah, probably. That's why. Not only that, is covering the previously known as Arizona Coyotes franchise. That aged you.
That probably would have put gray streaks in for just about anybody following that saga. But you know what? Now that's why it's so refreshing to see the way things are going for Utah. Talking about the renovation plans and getting the arena moving forward, getting the practice rink moving forward. Groups just went on sale for Utah Hockey Club. And I do want to talk about this analytics challenge, if you don't mind, for just a moment here. But for those of you who haven't seen it, if you go to Utah Hockey Club's website, I think this is cool because this is a very modern feeling thing for them to do. But they have a summer analytics challenge, which can land you, check this out, a part-time remote paid internship with the team's analytics department for the first half of the season. That's wild. So I'll let you read all the details online at nhl.com/Utah. But Bill Armstrong is behind it. And if you're going to participate, I'll just prepare you before you get there. You need to pick a hockey topic of interest, study and analyze, and then compile your findings on said topic into a maximum 5-page deliverable. Do you think you can do that? Including detailed analytics modeling, and submit it to the Utah Hockey Club. Now, the reason we're talking about it now, I know they let it out there like a week ago, but to remind you, the deadline is Friday, August 23rd at 5 o'clock Mountain Time. So again, Friday, August 23rd at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. And all applications are going to be reviewed by Utah's Hockey Ops Department. I think that's super cool. And again, it's remote, it's part-time, paid internship with an NHL franchise's analytics department. Robyn, do you have your 5-page deliverable ready to go?
Definitely don't have one ready to go. I have not written a deliverable or an essay or whatever in like since I was in college. Again, to me that feels like that feels such a long time ago. Like the college years feels like such a years past me, and the years of writing stuff and going in depth on stuff like that, it's crazy. But the people that are able to go and do this, like, I salute you guys. You guys are gonna have you'll have a really awesome time doing it.
I'm going to tell you what I would do as a topic. I'm not applying for this, so I will tell you what I would do just in case anybody needs a place to get inspired. I would, because I'm a goalie, I would look into the goaltenders for this year, who I think we are fairly safe in saying it's Ingram and Vejmelka, unless lightning strikes one or both of them. And then I would go in, do an in-depth analytical analysis, and then try to figure out the best possible rotation for Utah Hockey Club to use throughout the season. Who starts against who and when, on the road, at home, against which team, and why. I think that would be a killer deliverable. If you could break that down and come out with a starting rotation for the entire season, or maybe just the first half of the season. The whole year is asking a lot. Just do the first 3 months of the season. It'll take you a while, but go through all the numbers, run all the numbers, the analytics on the goaltenders. It's a 2-player focused drill as opposed to trying to do all 12 forwards or 60 or whatever.
The thing I love is in multiple ways, seeing the embracing of that, that side of the hockey community, and going in depth and seeing how crucial that part of the that side of the community can be, despite how much, Tom, you and I have talked about just being such like mainly eye test people. Like, don't get me wrong, you and I love stats. We can go back and forth on stats any given day, even some really in-depth stats, and we use those. But I'm not going to go out and say I'm one of those people that's going to be like, taking a look at the latest trends of newly drafted centers and where their potential ends up landing them based off their draft position or whatever it might be. It's absolutely crazy seeing those completely different sides, but still being able to come together and being able to understand and appreciate that.
Well, Robyn, I'll tell you, one of the reasons why I know I'm cynical about numbers is because I was trained in sales. When I first got out of college, the first couple of jobs I had, I got extensive sales trainings. And here's what I can tell you. You can make numbers hula hoop, jump over any building, or tunnel under any wall. You can get the numbers to do what you need them to do if you present them in the correct context, which is why I think a lot of people try to go about and validate their case by presenting fancy stats. So here's the other thing, though. The flip side of that, what they can confirm is if you are a hockey person with a hockey eye for talent and you watch the game and you've been around it and you have an idea what you're looking for, numbers can help you confirm your biases.
Certainly.
And so you're going to carry some bias into watching a player, whether positive or negative, one way or the other. And you might pick something out about his game. I don't know. I'll just say when Jimmy Smith forechecks on the left wing, He has a forced turnover rate of blah, blah, blah. And you watch him go down the left wing side and you think, man, he makes the other team turn the puck over quite a bit. That's when you can go in and look at the forecheck pressure rates and the turnover rates and things like that. You can kind of jump in deeper and figure out, okay, did I see one game where that's what he does, or is that his game over what would project out to be an 82-game NHL season? So there are definitely reasons to use them. But to me, it's not the sole thing you should rely on, because they can lead you astray if you just get lost in the numbers.
Oh, certainly. One of the things I will say this to kind of, unless you had any other thoughts too, before I wrap up this specific thought, is when I first saw this challenge and talk about the analytics, my brain instantly went to a former classmate or colleague of mine back when I was a student at the University of Arizona. They were also a hockey fan and were crazy into, covering the sport of hockey and wanted to do that, as did I. So we naturally were pretty close. They were crazy analytics. I was eye test, and seeing the difference on how we thought, like how our thought processes went together. They compiled charts and insane other graphics to really show shot hotspots for University of Arizona hockey versus all of that. And I'm just like, I'm looking, and again, I'm the journalist. I'm looking for the stories and everything like that. But it's fun to see the differences, right? And so seeing this instantly made me think of them, and I was like, I bet if they were still covering hockey these days, spoiler, they're not. They kind of went and did a different side of their career, but they'd probably love to do something like that.
Yeah, I think that there's probably a lot of, and by the fact that this is being called an internship, I don't know if it's limited to just college age students or not. Perhaps maybe an early career person, but if it's something that you've really gotten into, I think it's, number one, this is a wild opportunity. Holy cow. When I saw this, it was mind blowing.
Talking for an NHL club. Yeah.
Right. But number two, I think it's more common now. If you've grown up with the game and you're in your teenage to early 20s, I think that you've been seeing those, and those have been fed to you now since you can probably remember. And so it's a little more second nature to you to just adapt those things in. Now, the real challenge, again, is being able to present them in a way that wows Bill Armstrong and company. So, but hey, you got a couple weeks to figure it out.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to keep going on this episode of Locked On Utah Hockey Club. We're going to get to talking a little bit about other questions and anything else coming around in the hockey world and the Utah Hockey Club world. We'll get to all that right after this.
And today's episode is brought to you in part by Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of our show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed right here on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
So let's keep things going on this episode of Locked On Utah Hockey Club. Once again, Robyn Leonio and Tom Callahan. Wanting to thank everyone once again making this show your first listen every single day. We're free and available everywhere you get your shows. All right, Tom. So we're now in the, in all the dog days of the off season, where it's this month where there's like not a whole lot going on in August, right? So like in from April until June, you got the Stanley Cup playoffs, exciting stuff. You even got the NHL awards, you got the NHL draft. July, really only the first week of July, you have the free agency, but even then, it kind of trickles out. Maybe at least a decent amount of the month, and we still always. But regardless, you'll still always be something to talk about in July. It's August. This is the dog days, but you know what? We're still here. We're still powering through it. But we only got like a month until training camp comes around. Maybe like a little less, maybe 6 weeks around until training camp comes. We're getting really close. And it feels getting closer, yet there's still some questions that need to be answered.
Well, there's always going to be questions heading into camp, Robyn. And I think that's one of the things that makes hockey fun, because even in camp, now you're going to come out with more questions. One of my favorite things with Nashville was always every time that they went into a training camp, I would always, at the beginning, I'd have my thoughts, my players I was watching, the people around me would have their thoughts, their players they were watching. And then at the end of camp, my favorite question to ask of David Poyle, of Barry Trotz, was always, so what was your biggest surprise? Because there's always one, maybe two. The person that comes out of nowhere, or the player that you thought was going to be a lot more impactful that isn't. So you can't necessarily project those, but boy, sometimes you just really get kind of grabbed by that thing that happens in camp. So we're looking ahead now to training camp, trying to figure out the impact of players, trying to figure out, especially defensively. And I know we've talked about the defense. We're going to talk about the defense more because it matters an awful lot. But I am going to start with the defense for you. And the big name guy was Mikhail Sergachev in the offseason, coming off a big injury. Now, my question is, obviously still a young player, still owed a lot of money. Is this boom or bust for Utah? And is it something that clicks right away?
That's an interesting question. I think it's something that, like, I don't know if it's something that can be answered right away when it comes to someone like that. I think you mentioned that multiple questions going around with Mikhail Sergachev and in that injury history, and you're like, okay, there is a huge, massive question mark. Can he keep the injury bug at bay? Can he be the tip-top Mikhail Sergachev we all expect him to be? And it really is going to depend on I think first and foremost is, like, it's going to be himself, as well as, I guess, it's going to be how well maybe he responds to the training staff or whatever it's going to be. I'm going to watch him. I'd be certainly, if I'm watching somebody, he's going to be the person I watch for in training camp specifically, as you mentioned, because I'm like, all right, I want to see maybe where he's at. Is it skating? Where he is at? But some things you won't even know until the game hits, right? Until the game hits. But I really don't think it's going to be like a boom or bust situation, at least not yet. I am always someone who's I'm a very patient person when it comes to a hockey team, I guess, because I've learned a thing or two of a team taking a while to move up in the last few years. So patience to me is something that's come my way a little bit. So that I think that's one of the things I'll say is add a little bit of patience in there. I'm not rushing things year one. I'm not focusing that specifically on year one. I would like to see development in the right direction, of course, but I'm not going to say it's going to be a boom or bust situation.
I'm going to look into my crystal hockey puck, and I'm going to get actually pretty detailed with how I think this is going to go. I think that you're going to see Sergachev jump out 3 points in the first 2 games and then go into an absolute swoon and not do anything productive through basically American Thanksgiving. And then in the month of December, going to start to come back. I think there will be an initial spark of playing in front of a new building, new audience. I think probably 2 points on opening night against Chicago and then one more in the next game. And remember, they're going on that long road trip. I think that's going to take a lot out of the entire team, but it's also not going to necessarily, it'll help for team bonding, but it's not going to help everybody get their legs under them right away because it's a long trip out east. Then they got to go back to Anaheim and then they get into it again, which is a crazy road trip to start the season. So I think there's going to be a bit of a nosedive through October into November, and then again to American Thanksgiving, and then they're going to start to pick it up, Sergachev included. Now, here's the other thing. In today's NHL, power plays are huge. They absolutely are huge. You cannot get by, I don't think, anymore with an average power play. You need an above average power play. So to me, the second half of the year and how he fits in, because we're all stitching him in there as power play quarterback one, this is what I need to see. So I think at the end of the year, productive year, should be a good year. But much like you taking the patience route, you were a little bit longer route patience than me. But I think the first couple of months are going to be rough. So we'll see how that goes.
Certainly. And then I'm not saying like, look, if I'm not saying like if let's say, you know, he has a complete tank of a year, and I'm like, let's just be patient. That's there. The patience has a certain, it comes with the idea that there is already a set expectation that this team, specifically again, someone like Sergachev, is going to bring a new level and a new style of play. So I already have at least a expectation, a floor for that. I am still patient enough to say, okay, it might take some time. It might do that. But they go through the entire year and he does nothing. All right, I'm like, all right. I'm a little concerned, but we'll see. I will still bite, just bite my cheek just a little bit until I know more of what's going on, until I can see like one season sample size isn't enough for me sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's certainly me.
All right, let's jump into question number 2. Starting the season.
Hold on, we'll do that though.
Oh, timeout. Okay.
Yeah, we do got to make sure we have enough time. We'll do that right after this. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets easier and faster. Prices in the Game Time app usually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices of views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time does the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. I know for sure my favorite series to watch, especially someone that was here in Arizona Diamondbacks, which is my hometown San Francisco Giants. Always able to find great deals on them, especially when I buy the tickets last minute, see as low as I can get, and really get good views. I can actually see the view from my seat before purchase, as well as click all-in pricing, so I can toggle the feature, so I can know the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets for yourself with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20. $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Tom.
All right, question 2. I'm right back into it. I've been thinking about this one, and I talked about the goaltenders a little bit earlier. I think coming into the season, Connor Ingram is 1A, Vejmelka is 1B.
Mm-hmm.
By Christmas, is that still the same, or does it switch?
I have a lot of confidence it will remain the same. We've talked over this offseason already of how crucial of an offseason this is for Karel Vejmelka and how he really needs to step up his game if there really is any longer term, any much longer future with this organization. So you will definitely see a step up from Karel Vejmelka, but Connor Ingram's momentum and the development that we've been seeing from him in the last few seasons, I'm confident that will continue. The goalie staff of what previously known Arizona Coyotes, now part of the Utah organization, has been phenomenal. They really have shown that they can develop really good goaltenders, and get them from might have not have been great years with previous teams or whatever, and all of a sudden they look great. Connor Ingram is no exception to that. He's been getting better and better, and expect much of that the same year. I just don't think he can be caught up at this point.
And I'll start with Vejmelka. To me, this is a big make or break year for him, not just with Utah, but as far as his NHL career goes. That's why I really expect him to push for that starter's job in camp, through camp, all the way into Christmas. That's why I don't see them necessarily just handing it by any means.
No.
But if Connor Ingram is anything less than on top of his game, you could see a stretch in late December, early January, where what was a 70-30 switch one way for starts might go 70-30 the other way for a little bit, just to see if, maybe he can carry the mail a little bit. I think at some point, and here's the other reason why I say that, is with a goalie in a contract year, I think you have to test him to see how much you can rely on him. I think you have to throw him to the fire at some point. I just don't think they do it early on, but I believe that probably somewhere in those dog days, and for me, the dog days of the NHL season is basically from American Thanksgiving to probably the middle of January. That 2-month stretch there is just kind of the hockey doldrums, and then it starts to pick up after that. So somewhere in there, I think, is that area that I'm going to really be keeping an eye on this tandem. And the other thing too, don't forget, he'll probably get showcased. If they're not going to keep him, they might want to try to move him as a rental. If they feel Ingram can carry the bulk of the load, maybe you can get an asset back for him if they, by that time, have made a decision that he's not going to be sticking around. Or maybe he makes that decision. We don't know.
Yeah, that's certainly something to keep an eye out for. I certainly think that I'm definitely expecting, Kuro Vejmelka to still get a decent chunk. And again, like I said, I'm not going, full 1-2 yet. It still is a 1A, 1B situation. I still think that, Vejmelka is going to get his fair share, in the sense that I think it's going to help him in what, as kind of like what you mentioned, kind of increase that trade value and see what Utah can do there. You're going to see he's going to get more starts. So maybe there can be a talk on, all right, where we can go down that situation. Because Utah's still at that point in their in the building of the franchise, in which they're still moving assets around to still find what works best for them, what's going to be best for their long-term future. Their goalie system right now, their goalie prospect system is insanely deep. It's not. I'm not necessarily too worried about losing a guy, especially if they can get another guy at least for in the short term that can at least take the 1B time in the meantime.
So let's get to the last question here, if we got time to squeeze this in.
Yeah,
we've been talking about forwards, guys that we like. Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz, Lawson Krause, I think are the big names. We've talked about Matthias Michelli at length, and talked about the ability to take the next step forward. And Barrett Hayton's still young. I don't know what we're going to get out of Kevin Stenlund, but I guess we're going to find out. Obviously, there's a lot of love already for Liam O'Brien, which is fantastic. There's a lot of questions there, right? Logan Cooley, Josh Doan. And then you kind of look a little sideways at, what about the first round draft picks this year? Does a person like TJ Ginla maybe make an impact out of camp? I mean, is he going to end up back in junior? I would say 99.9% yes.
Yeah.
But my question to you, Robyn, is this year, out of the forward core, who is the player that ascends to really be that first Utah Hockey Club superstar?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Out of the current forward core,
the current forward crop, because again, assuming that the draft picks from this year are not going to be playing a full season.
It's a really interesting question, because I think it really depends on, like, what's the most well received, right? Because you can have someone like your Clayton Keller, who is going to be this like he's like the ultimate playmaker for the team. He gets all the points, whether it's an assist or goals. He's making some kind of impact on the ice in some way or another. That said, it's really interesting because I'm trying to think. So are you going like this season specifically, or are we just going like full on?
No, not for all time, because then it brings the draft picks in, because I figure Iginla will be there next year and that kind of thing, and he should be you hope he's a superstar. That's why you drafted him number 6. But yeah, just this year, I mean, does Clayton Keller, take his next big step forward? Is Lawson Krause the guy who ascends? Who is that player that becomes the superstar here in the mix?
I mean, and if that's the case, I really will have to. So I'll go ahead and give out two names. One is again the one I just mentioned, and Clayton Keller specifically for the reason because he is the ultimate playmaker. He's always out doing something. He is like the MVP on the ice. But if I went on a different metric and graded it based off of how maybe flashy they can be, or how they can end up being a true goal scorer. This is actually going to be maybe a little bit of a surprising, but if unless you're an everydayer and you know exactly and you know who exactly I'm talking about when I say the term true goal scorer, I'm talking about Dylan Guenther. I think he will make. I'm going to say Dylan Guenther is going to make an insane stride forward. He's been impressive since his rookie year, and I think, all right, he's just waiting for that one season where it's gonna insane breakout, insane goal scoring year to show the true version of what he can be. And I think we will see a goal scoring Dylan Guenther this season that can show that superstar potential.
Okay. Wow. I didn't see you going with Dylan Guenther, so that was one that made me raise an eyebrow there. But I like it. I like it. It's bold. It's a bold pick. I'm wondering, okay, as far as step forward, I'm looking at both Logan Cooley and Josh Doan this year to make the big step forward. But I think at the end of it all, I kind of wonder if it's not going to be Lawson Krause who's selling the jerseys, who people pick as the star of the team and get behind, because he has elements of everything that everybody can love. You know what I mean? He can be tough. He can be athletic. He can, move guys around, but he can also score some goals.
Oh yeah.
I would love to see him, pick up his output offensively a little bit here without losing the edge. And that's really the key for me. But I think if he does, power forwards are precious in today's game. They really are true power forwards. And even the definition of a power forward has changed. When I was a kid and I was first watching hockey, a power forward was Tim Kerr, Rick Vive, Cam Neely, my favorite of all time, even though I hated the Bruins. But I mean, as a kid, I respected Cam Neely because he could score 50 goals and beat you up too, and I love that. And those big guys, Dave Anderchuk was another one, played for the Buffalo Sabres where I grew up. That was the definition, this big, just dude you stuck in front of the net. And he just took the beating, knocked the goals in with his shovel, or brought his hard hat in his lunch pail, and I loved it. And that was what I got used to. But now a power forward is skating, is physical play, is being able to dig the puck out of the corners and win those battles as well, and be able to translate that power into your game. So it's a little bit different dynamic, actually a lot different dynamic than it used to be. But he's got the chance to be that player in today's NHL.
Oh, certainly, and I think that's definitely a good pick too. I mean, especially if seeing seeing the growth that we've seen in just the last few years from a guy like Lawson
Sure.
Krause. Plus, I love power forwards. I love what they're able to do. They're able to use that the board battles, as you've mentioned, the ability to essentially open up the lanes and ability for allow other people to make plays, get really in there, get down in their slot. Like, not very many people can do it the way that Lawson Krause does, and that's certainly that's a phenomenal pick.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, today's NHL, you need that guy. And again, I'll go back to what we talked about earlier with the power play. You have to have a good power play if you're going to succeed. And again, Utah making the playoffs this year would be a bit of a surprise. I'm not calling for that, but I am calling for the big steps forward here. And I want to see these guys compete right from the get-go and be good. I know it's going to take some time to put it all together because you're throwing a lot of new bits and pieces into the hopper here and now trying to make something out of it. But I think they can. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But I've got these burning questions, Robyn. I have more than that, but we're out of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any final quick thought you'd like to share before I close things off?
I just want to remind everybody to jump in on that analytics challenge because I think it's a phenomenal opportunity. But also, I want to remind everybody about our text club, Robyn, which I'm sure you're going to do as well. And as we kind of roll our way through August here, send us a text, 801-760-9033. 801-760-9033. Just text I love Tom so much because he's the greatest thing ever to 801-760-9033. But seriously, we're gonna get our text club rolling here. There's gonna be not only news and notes, but nuggets that are only exclusively available on the text club. You will have to be there to be able to get these things. Once we're gonna start getting news and notes from training camp, exclusive bits, whether it's audio or links to video or how, the things that we're going to be bringing to you from being a part of this Utah Hockey Club. It's going to be a real chance to be an insider with this team in year one. And Robyn and I are going to bust our butts to make sure it's the best it could possibly be for you because we want to cover this team wall to wall.
We want to cover this team wall to wall, and we want to help you guys all be super fans of this Utah Hockey Club in year one and be like, I already know this team from forwards, backwards, and sideways, and it's only its first year in Salt Lake City. That's what we're trying to hope for all of you guys. And
we want you to buy the right jersey.
That's
really what it comes down to. When you're going to buy that fan jersey, and we'll just try to influence your choice a little bit. So I'll put my own name on the jersey. I'll never get traded.
There you go. I love that. Anyways, that's going to be it for this episode of the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to leave a 5-star review, to leave us a comment. Subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube Music. We're on Sirius XM, Amazon Music if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber. So everywhere you can get your shows. Don't forget to also interact with us on social media. We are on the app formerly known as Twitter, X, on Instagram and Threads at LO_NHL Utah. I am personally at Robyn_Leano, and Tom Callahan is at Callahan on Air. Thanks again to everyone for listening to today's episode. We'll see you guys next time.